Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to News Dose. So, I know a lot of people have been frustrated by PlayStation's presence these past few years. It feels like they're just kind of missing that it factor. I mean, on one side, they've put out some really good games this generation. There's no doubt about that. But their problem is really their lack of communication with their fans. Their silence has been deafening. And fans who are invested in the PlayStation 5 are honestly just kind of losing their patience by this point. I mean, fans want to know what they can look forward to in the future. I mean, okay, yeah, they just had the PlayStation State of Play a little bit over a month ago, but it wasn't exactly great. The online reaction was that it was a terrible showcase outside of Astrobot, which, hey, that game looks amazing. I'm pumped for that game myself. But that's pretty much all they had. Their other first-party game was Concord, and fans absolutely hated it. I mean, to be completely honest, by this point, you have to kind of wonder if that game is just going to flop right out of the gate. It feels like that's the direction it's currently heading in. Whatever the case may be, though, fans want a reason to be excited about their PlayStation 5 purchase, and they want to know what exactly they have in the pipeline to look forward to. Well, the good news here is that PlayStation is actually finally showing up at an event that they usually skip out on. This was a little bit of a surprise, but we're going to get into that here in just a moment and some of their possible announcements. Now, interestingly, this is a bit of a switch up compared to Xbox and their strategy, but I'll also say that I'm not 100% convinced that this is the end of that specific conversation, and I'm going to explain why here today. Now, do stay tuned for some other news as well, but let's just go and get right into the big stuff here. PlayStation, for the first time since 2019, will attend TGS 2024. Now, there will be a lot of participants this year, including Bandai Namco. You're going to have Capcom there, all of the usual suspects, but Sony's participation is drawing a lot of interest online just because, like I said at the top of the video, their silence has been deafening this generation. They've barely showed us anything these past 2 years. It's absolutely frustrating, but it's almost expected by this point that they're going to skip every third-party event. I mean, just look at Gamescom next month as one such example. That's one of the biggest events this year, and yet they won't be there. So it is really interesting to see them suddenly attend TGS out of all places for the first time since 2019. What's even more interesting about this is that TGS is actually set after the release of Astrobot, which is their only first-party Japanese-developed game. So I don't think that Astrobot is the main reason they're showing up this year. And with that, you do have to kind of wonder, do they have something else up their sleeves that could appeal specifically to the Japanese audience? And I started to think about that, and a few things do actually come to mind here. The first of which is Death Stranding 2, developed by the legend himself, Hideo Kojima. By all indication, unless there's some kind of delay, this will be one of their big 2025 titles. Theoretically, its marketing should ramp up sometime here soon, and that could possibly start at TGS 2024. In fact, Death Stranding actually made an appearance at TGS 2018 6 years ago, so there is a history here with Death Stranding and TGS. So with that in mind, I think that could be their big reveal, followed up by Silent Hill 2. Silent Hill 2 is technically another Japanese game. It is set for an October 8th release, and this is a big exclusive partnership between Sony and Konami. So I'm sure they're going to want to advertise it as much as they possibly can, and truth be told, I kind of feel like this game really needs it. For as much as I don't want to admit this, for such an iconic horror game, the remake hasn't exactly impressed so far. I'm starting to wonder if Bloober Team was the wrong choice for this remake, which, I mean, I hope that's not the case. I want this game to deliver because it's viewed as one of the greatest horror games ever made. So, you know, I do hope the remake does justice for you longtime fans out there. I mean, crossing my fingers by this point. Now, another game, and this is actually based off of a rumor that we heard earlier this year. So I'd say that this is a little bit less likely to happen than these other two games, but we do know that there's a Gravity Rush movie adaptation in the works. That was revealed at CES 2024, so that is 100% happening. But since then, there's also been a rumor going around that a remaster for Gravity Rush 2 will come to the PlayStation 5 and PC. I mean, a remaster to pair with that adaptation would make strategic sense for them. I mean, Sony did the same thing with The Last of Us and the HBO adaptations, so, you know, why not do the same thing with Gravity Rush as well and pair a remaster with its movie adaptation? Now, I'm going to throw one more potential reveal your way, and this is probably not super likely just because I feel like this announcement would be better suited for a PlayStation showcase where its viewership would be higher, so I don't want to get your hopes up too much. But just as an off chance, this game was very popular in Japan when it debuted on the PlayStation 4. And of course, I'm talking about Ghost of Tsushima. Unlike the other games, this is not a Japanese-developed game, but it being located in feudal Japan, it is very popular in that region. So, it is widely believed that Sucker Punch is working on a sequel. And could the official announcement be made at TGS? I'm going to predict probably not, but just as an off chance, I thought I'd at least throw this one out there. Now, I think the only other potential announcement that comes to mind, though, is the PlayStation 5 Pro. Most everything about this console has leaked by this point, and it's expected to release this holiday, so we should get an official announcement sometime soon. But if I'm being completely honest, I don't really think that they're going to do that at TGS. Sure, there's a chance, but I think they're going to announce it a different way. Either which way, though, it's very interesting that Sony is suddenly attending this year again. Maybe it has something to do with their new leadership. Jim Ryan is no longer there, and maybe that means that they are prioritizing Japan a little bit more under their new leadership. And if so, that's absolutely fantastic news. Let me hear your predictions and hopes, though, in the comments below. Now, speaking of surprises at TGS, Xbox is not on the attendance list for TGS 2024. I mean, they've had a strong presence there these past few years, and they've held their own digital showcases where they've announced some really cool games. I mean, just last year alone, Pal World, the Ace Attorney trilogy, and Octopath Traveler 2 were all a part of their TGS showcase. That's a pretty good lineup, all things considered. They were all Xbox Game Pass games, and that's been a big emphasis for them this generation. Xbox has made a lot of effort getting these Japanese games on their consoles, a lot of which tends to be on Xbox Game Pass. And they usually use TGS as a way to showcase those Japanese games. I mean, if anything else, this probably helps them establish better relationships with a lot of these Japanese developers and publishers. I think we all kind of understand that Xbox, isn't exactly the most popular console in Japan, but it is important to keep in mind that they have made improvements over there, and if you look at the numbers, you can even see the proof of that. The Xbox Series just surpassed 600,000 units sold in Japan, which is a massive milestone for them compared to the Xbox One, which only sold 120,000 units. That is a major, major improvement. So they are doing something right in Japan, which I think is all the more reason why some people are a little bit surprised by their absence at this year's TGS. However, I think something to kind of keep in mind here is that Xbox didn't announce a TGS showcase last year until just weeks before it happened. So they could still do something similar this year, just because they're not on the list so far. That doesn't necessarily guarantee that they won't be added later on with their own announcement. So I'd say just kind of be patient in this case and, we'll see what happens. No matter what, though, for you Xbox fans out there, you do have Gamescom to look forward to. It sounds like they will have a big presence there. And then you also just had the Xbox showcase last month, which did have some Japanese games. And that showcase as a whole was really just one of the best showcases that we have seen in a very, very long time. Moving on, though, let's go and talk about Nintendo because they just dropped a new wave of Switch Online games, and you can see the full list here. It includes Urban Champion, Golf. Yeah, that's the name, just simply golf. Very creative, I know. Then there's Donkey Kong Jr. Math, just in case you feel the need to do math while playing Donkey Kong. Perfect combination, I understand. Then there's Mach Rider, The Mystery of Atlantis, Solar Jetman, and then lastly, Cobra Triangle, which is another Rare title. I do like that Xbox is allowing these games on Switch Online just because Rare is such a huge part of Nintendo's history. All in all, though, this lineup is... How do I put this in a nice way? It's a lineup. I'm not going to say it's a good lineup, but there's games here. I'll just kind of leave it at that. But this is how I look at Switch Online. It's a $20 service that includes online multiplayer plus all of these retro games as well. I almost kind of look at them as a bonus because in terms of value, it's really not bad just because it's very affordable compared to its competition, which is priced much higher. At the same time, though, I can't really say that Nintendo is keeping me interested with these new releases. I definitely wouldn't subscribe for that reason alone. I don't know, though. If you have any attachment to these games, let me know in the comments below. Now, one last thing before we go, we got some great news for the Dragon Ball franchise. Kakarot has now officially sold 8 million copies worldwide, which is absolutely incredible. Not a lot of games can sell this much, let alone anime games, and I think this just further proves that Dragon Ball is a money printing machine. Truthfully, though, this is a solid game release. In a lot of ways, this is the Dragon Ball game that fans have wanted for a very long time. It reminds me a lot of the old Goku Legacy games for the Game Boy Advance. Shout out to anybody out there that remembers those. And, we've wanted a game like those, but instead set in a fully 3D world, and that's kind of what Kakarot is. I mean, it took them a long time to finally realize that fans would like something like that. I know, hard to believe, right? But, if anything else here, I hope they've learned something from this and they can further improve on its formula with another new game like this in the future. For the time being, though, I mean, Dragon Ball in terms of gaming is in a very good spot right now. They released Dragon Ball FighterZ last generation that turned out to be a great fighting game. Then you have Kakarot, 8 million. That is very impressive. And Sparking Zero, that's still right around the corner as well. So you Dragon Ball fans out there are eating very well. Anyways, though, that's going to be it for this episode. But as always, do hit that subscribe button. And until next time, peace out.